Well, what's going on here then? Something looks different, Nayna. First of all, welcome back to my chat corner. It's been a couple of weeks because I took some time off to have a think about what I was doing, and then also I did all of this. It's not my dream setup because like I just want everything to be white. I want like a white background with like flowers everywhere and everything just white, and I don't have the budget for that. So here I am. I made this with like, I bought the wood and then I painted the wood and then I cut all the material and then I drew loads of bubbles on them with acrylic paint, and now I'm not really sure how I feel about it. But let's see how it looks like when I edit back. Actually, I did a test run of the setup and it looked way too mystical, so I took this chair from my back garden instead of the one that I had, and I took this table from my back garden instead of the one that I had, and then I went and bought these like bins so then they're white and not brown, because everything just looks really mystical and I didn't like it. Oh no. Anyways, I hope you like this set, and it's gonna have to do. It gives me a little bit more space, so then you're all the way back there, and then I can just like talk without feeling like the camera's in my face. And then one day everything will be white. I've also come more organized, right? So I did a sheet for myself. So I've got some segments and stuff that I'm gonna follow going forward, which I'm quite excited about. I don't know why I wrote with like hand, because like I have zero patience to write with hand, so then it just looks like really bad handwriting. And like when I try, it looks really nice, but 90% of the time I don't try and it just looks terrible. So I don't know why I attempted to do handwritten notes. Anyway, so I'm gonna follow some segments on my new what? It's still like my chat corner, it's still the same, just a new setup and more organized. So today's video is about fetishes. What? It's about fetishes. Oh my god, why can't I say the word? It's about fetishes, pornography, and squirting. Now, the reason why I wanted to put all three of them together is because I have like small things to say about all of them, and I don't know if I could make like a whole video about it, just because like I don't know if I could go on about those things. So I thought, let me put them all three together, so then it's like a longer video of me talking about these three different things. So I had to do some research for it, and so I have come prepared, and I'm excited to get into this conversation, so let's do it. What do I want the viewer to take away from this conversation? This question helps me to tidy up my mind of like, why am I talking? What am I about to talk about? Because I just want to know, how do people benefit from this conversation? And I've come up with here, so then they can explore themselves through this conversation, and that's it. I'm going to help you explore yourself further. I'm not going to give you answers. I'm not going to tell you what's right or what's wrong, but me having my point of view and stuff, maybe that's going to give you more exploration in your mind as to what... Well, yeah, just more exploration in your mind. So on to the new segment. Before I start on the topic, I want to put a headline in here to do with like what I'm going to talk about, right? I couldn't find any because nobody has anything to say about these things, or they do, but maybe I was a bit lazy. But the only reason why I'm doing this video is because somebody asked me to talk about fetishes. Oh my god, I can't say that word. Fetishes. And somebody else asked me to talk about pornography, and that's why I'm doing this video. But actually, let me put a little thing that I thought about the other day here. It's not a headline, but it's something that I thought about, right? I was talking to my friend and we was talking about like bumming and stuff, and I said to him that I have a theory as to how the bumming thing came about. Yes, I know, me and my theories, right? But let me tell you what my theory is of how I think bumming came about. When I say bumming, I mean, what's that word? Is it heterosexual when like it's a male and female? I don't know, I'm foreign, so sometimes I get lost with these words, right? But why is it that the male decided to put his penis up the female's bum, right? And I wanted to, I sat there for a second, I thought about it. I was like, why did they do that? And I said to my friend that I think, yeah, so basically, men had to like be gone for a long time, and they were like out at the sea, or they were like out doing things, and they had to be gone for a long time. And then there was a period where like these drugs started to become like accessible to people. So like, what's that drug? Opioids or something like that, right? And it was known that these men who used to go out to sea, they used to entertain themselves by using opioids. So then they would go out to work, and then they'd come back with these addictions to these like drugs that made them happy, right? And I think, yeah, while they were out there high on these drugs, I don't know if people are going to be like insulted by this theory of mine here, but I feel like they were high on these drugs. They started to like miss their wives, so then they started to experiment with each other. Because they were like high on drugs, they found it easy to start experimenting with each other, and the only hole that replicated a woman was the bum hole. So then they started to like experiment like that with each other, with men on men, and then they came back to their wives addicted to the drug. And then I think that because of the addiction, they then started to try to replicate the experience of being away in their home.
Wow.
So then they started to bum their wives because they were trying to replicate this like high experience that they were having out there on drugs, bumming people. I don't know where these theories come from. Like, why do they come into my head? Because it's the only logical explanation. It's like something to do with drugs. Your brain wasn't thinking properly. Then you went up the hole because you was doing whatever. And the reason why I say that, yeah, is because I'm a very black and white person, right? Somebody tried to bum me once. It was not a pleasurable experience. Actually, they tried more than once. Maybe it was like 2 different partners. They tried to do it. So then after that period, it just started to be taught onto the next generation, because that's what a lot of men do. That they teach their young men how to behave and how to think. That it just became a part of normal desires and sex to like go bumming people. But maybe my door just slammed. It's like, Nayna, stop it. Stop talking about this. Anyways, there's a little interesting theory. Yes, and I know, like, what the heck did you just say? Okay, I said it. All right.
Oops.
Right, so let's cover fetishes first. It actually feels quite weird being all the way back here because I can't really see myself properly. And usually I can see myself like a little bit closer. So I had to Google what fetishes mean, because I think that a lot of us, we use these words. Like, for example, we say, oh, I have OCD, but you don't have OCD. Or like, oh, I want to die, but you don't want to die. And like, we just say things to be exaggerative. And I feel like the word fetish is also something that I use out of turn, because like, I will say that I have a fetish for something, and really it's a misused word. So then I had to Google the word because I wanted to be specific as what is a fetish, and actually I was clarified. So this is what Google told me. Sexual excitement. Okay, I wrote this myself. You already know I wrote this myself because that does not make sense. Sexual excitement to not typical sexual parts. So basically, you get sexually excited for parts of things that are not typically sexual. So this is not sexual yet it makes you sexually excited. So it makes sense that if my boobs, or actually maybe at one point the boobs wasn't a sexual part, so maybe the boobs was born through fetishes, but like it makes sense that you're aroused by my vagina because that's where you get sexually aroused. But things that are not typically sexual, you get aroused by those things. That's what fetishes are. And it's more than just an attraction. It's an obsession, meaning that you can't perform sexual acts without it. And maybe there's levels to fetish. I'm gonna stop saying the word because I can't even say it. Fetishness. Maybe I'm gonna say fetishness. Maybe there's levels to fetishness, where like one is like a complete obsession and the other one is like a bit of interest. And I guess people just land on a dial somewhere. Like, for example, I'm very interested in hands, but hands could be a sexual thing. Anyway, so then I started like doing some research, and they are unable to arouse without it. And I think that this is where the obsession is a little bit stronger than others, where you're just not able to arouse without it and you need it for arousal. So then I was like, oh, interesting. What are these fetishes? Because for me, all I've heard about is the fetish with the feet. Like I said, I might have used the word out of turn, where like some guys that I've dated, they've been a bit obsessed with my feet, and I would be like, oh yeah, he has a fetish for feet. He didn't need my feet to like have sex, and there was one guy. Now that I've done this research here, I'm thinking like, raw. I'm not sure how I feel about that, because there was this one guy, he would always hold my feet when he was inside of me, and I thought it was quite cute. Now I'm coming to think about it, maybe he couldn't come without concentrating on my feet, which I think that's a little bit insulting, because I don't like that. I feel like you should be able to come regardless, and he kept holding my feet, which I thought was really nice, and actually it turned me on a bit. So anyways, okay. So then I started doing research, right? And actually it turns out that watching porn with your partner, and if you're not able to perform sex without the porn, that's actually a fetish. Like, you need to be watching something, but then that is a sexual thing, right? So, and I thought that fetishes was non-sexual things, and porn is a sexual thing, so I don't know if that is a fetish, but maybe that was born at some point because of a fetish or something, I don't know. Anyways, so body parts, like for example, some people like piercings and some people like the neck. I don't know, I think the most obvious non-sexual part is the feet, and maybe some people like the knees or something.
What?
I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh, it's just because I don't have this, and it will be so interesting, like, oh, I can't have sex without thinking about this thing, or when I think about this thing, it arouses me. Like, isn't that weird? Anyway, it gets weirder, so listen to this, right? Okay, so material is quite understandable. So some people like to see a woman in a tight latex and it turns them on, even though the latex is not sexual in itself, but then when it tightens up a woman's body or something, then I don't know, it turns a guy on. I think that's also explainable, because like when you look at the figure of a person because of the material, it makes sense why you're now aroused by it. And some people are only able to like get aroused when having sex with a prostitute rather than somebody that they love, and they're not able to get aroused with somebody that they love and only with like a prostitute. But again, I'd argue that a prostitute is a sexual object and it's not a non-sexual object. But I guess it does fall under a fetish where you can't do without it, basically. And actually, I had a friend who had to have toys in a bedroom with her alongside having sex at the same time for her to be able to ejaculate. So maybe that was her fetish, that she couldn't perform without this thing. Even though the thing is sexual, she can't perform without it. So maybe that is a bit of a fetish. Oh, I found how to say the word. I have to just say it from the East London accent. Fetish. It's because I was trying to pronounce the T. Fetish. Hey, I did it. Fetish. Oh no, it's because it was fetish. Fetishes. So I thought this one was interesting. Some people, and it's so funny because it's hair in ponytails, right? And I'm telling you, when I go to the supermarket and I put my hair up in a really messy bun, I swear to you, I get more attention than when I go out like this. Actually, no, I get the same attention. Wait, because then that just sounds like, do I do anything else? I do other things. So for example, I do my hair half up, half down. I don't really get attention with that, but I do get attention when I have it up messy, looking like some ragged doll, and I'm like, let me go to do my shopping. I don't care how I look like. And that people, men, just stare a little bit. Maybe they're staring because they're like, why'd you come out of the house like that? But but their look in their eye don't really look disgusted, or they don't look like they disapprove. It's kind of the opposite. So there is this thing about hair being up that men like it. It just seems so odd that you can't ejaculate without it. Like you have to like concentrate on it. I think that's the part that's disturbing me about fetishes, is that you have to concentrate on it, I'm assuming, for you to be able to ejaculate. So then maybe we can differ from things that you like rather than it being a fetish, because if you can't ejaculate without it, it's a fetish. Whereas if you can ejaculate without it, it's not really a fetish. According to my research anyway, I might be wrong, so sorry if I am wrong. So this is where it gets a little bit weird. This is where I don't really like it. So I remember one time I had a boyfriend who said to me that he wants me to dress up as a nurse. And I said to him, but I'm not a nurse. And he said, yeah, but we're gonna pretend. I was like, that means that you want a nurse. No, I want you, but can't you pretend to be a nurse? I said, no, because then you want the nurse and I'm not a nurse, so why do you want me to? Do you know what? I'm talking to my psychologist at the moment. I don't know if I want to talk about this right now, but we're talking about autism with my doctor and my psychologist. And it's just so hilarious how my brain is so funny like that. I'm so black and white, where it's like, but I'm not a nurse, so why do you want me to be a nurse? And if you want a nurse, that means you want a nurse. So why don't you go and get a nurse? Why do you want me to pretend to be a nurse? I'm not a nurse. And I find it quite insulting. Like, my name is Nayna. I sing and I talk, and that's what I am. So you're having sex with that. And if you want to have sex with a nurse, go and have sex with her, and me and you will break up. And he's like, I don't want to break up. I just want you to pretend to be a nurse. And I did not understand it. I did not like it. And apparently this is like one of the fetishes, is dressing up, pretending to be other characters, and pretending to have sex with that other character. Like, hell no. Thank you. Go and find that character and have sex with her. Because I'm not her, am I? Because I'm not a doctor. I'm not a nurse. I'm not a teacher. And then also, you're not having sex with me, are you? You're having sex with a fantasy in your head. Like, oh my God. Which I think that we all do that anyway. Huh? We have sex with something that we're thinking of about them rather than the person. And maybe that's why we don't have sex properly, because like we're not really connected to the person that we're having sex with. We're connected to an idea of them. Maybe we do that anyway. I don't know. I don't really like this whole like let's pretend to be characters and have sex. Like, right, anyway, so then it gets even more worse. Sorry, and I don't mean to laugh, I'm so sorry, it's just because this is new to me and this was new research. So then some people like to age play. I just don't understand how people get away with this stuff, because like we say that pedophilia is not allowed, right? Of course, that's not nice. But then you go and pretend to be a baby in the bedroom while you're having sex with, and you call them daddy and you call them mummy and stuff. Like, anyway, so that's another fetish, is this age gap thing where people pretend to be a massive gap age. And then like, for example, some men like to be in nappies and stuff, and they want you to treat them like a baby while you do sexual things to them. Like, so that for me becomes a little bit like, okay, I don't understand that. And that actually, I was reading this with like my mouth like wide open, like what? And then like, oh, call me daddy, like, sorry, because I'm coming across as if I'm judging here, and I don't want to do that, because actually what I want to do is just like discuss this topic. Do you know what? This whole world, yeah, is a little bit imbalanced, it's messed up, it's very angering, it's very unfair, and I just feel like we use escapism to like get out of and create something entertaining, because I feel like the world is so rubbish. So I just do feel like we push the boundaries a little bit. Not the boundaries, what can that be called? I don't know, we get creative. There's something unhealthy about it, and I think that that's only happening because of the state of the world. Because if the world was a great place, I don't know if we would need to push these so far into these experimental things. Like, for example, pretending to be a baby and then having sexual things done to you while you're pretending to be a baby. Like, I just do feel like that's a little bit of your brain trying to escape reality, and you're creating an alternative world where you can do whatever you wish to do, which in this world you cannot. I don't know, I'm just trying to imagine myself in that position, like pretending to be a baby and have sexual things done to me. And so my point is that the only reason why I would do that is that I want it to work. So I'm not being aroused. It takes me really long to ejaculate. So how can I make myself aroused quickly and ejaculate quickly? Is by doing things that are out of pocket and they're not normal. So then it makes it quicker for me to come, because it's, do you know what? Now that I'm talking about fetishes, maybe this is like a whole long video upon itself, because there is like, I think there is a psychological thing behind sexuality. And if you're not reaching the peak, and if you're not being able to reach the peak, then you find ways to catch yourself off guard, so then you can become aroused. Because I do think that arousal is born through catching yourself off guard, like not really thinking about it, and then something happens, it's like, oh. And so then maybe these brains are so psychologically trapped that they can't become aroused with simple things, and they need things that are a little bit not simple to arouse them. So for me, I like these little fetishes. Not the age thing, not the dress up thing, but all the other ones, like, oh, you like when my hair's in a ponytail, do you? Oh, like, I like that. Oh, you like my feet, do you? Like, okay, that's nice, I like that, it's interesting. So maybe there is a balance of like liking things that are unusual and then being turned on by them. Because I guess like, if I could like, for example, is perfume sexual? No, right? Perfume by itself is not sexual. But if a man is on top of me and he smells good, that arouses me more. Or if like I could see the side of his head, like if he's on top of me and I could see the side of his head and it looks nice, or for some reason his hair looks nice, like that makes me more attracted to him. But it's all to do with like my heart area. It's not to do with my vagina, because my vagina, for it to be aroused, it simply just needs to be teased. You need to like tease me, and I've done a video about teasing, so I don't know if I want to go on about teasing here, but you need to tease me, and if you tease me, then that's all that my vagina needs to be activated and then to ejaculate. It's just teasing. I don't need to look at your hair for me to start tingling. I don't need to smell your perfume for me to start tingling. So, and because I'm here alone, I don't know how to have more about this conversation, but I think that there is a balance. If you need something to ejaculate, then maybe there is some healing, because like, I don't know how you feel about that. How do you feel about it? And maybe it just depends on the person. If you like the fact that you have to be touching feet to ejaculate, if you like that, and if your partner likes that, like, yeah, I like the fact that you're a slave to my feet. But it's not just your feet, it's anybody's feet really, isn't it? So if you like it, there's just space for so much conversation here. Because like, okay, if you like it, then it's okay, right? And why do you like it? And you know, I want my brain to expand rather than to like become shorter. I don't want it to just be like, oh, you need some healing, so let's heal you, and we heal you by like stripping back all the sexuality and starting again and make you innocent again, and let's start with touch again, like all this sexual tantric massaging and stuff like that, where you could strip back your brain towards sexuality and start again, so then you don't have these addictive necessities for you to ejaculate. So it just depends how you feel. If you want to be able to ejaculate just with penetration of the vagina or whatever it is that you penetrate, or the hand or whatever, then there is ways, I think, to heal that and to make you be able to do that. But if you like these fetishes, then again, I think that's nice. I don't want to judge people who want to be put in nappies and who wants to be treated like a baby and then have sexual things done to them. I don't really want to judge you, but I do want to have conversations to try to understand, to at least have understanding and perspective as to why you do that and what that means for society. I have been getting lost in Instagram's comments lately because I'll just be interested in what people have to say, and I do know that like the world is so divided in opinion. Like one person would be like mortified at something and the other person is not. So then I feel like we all just got so many different opinions, and I think we can fix that. I think there's something that can be fixed in this world where we can come together and we can all agree 100%. I think that's possible, and there's all this other maths in the background that's causing us to have all these different opinions, and if we could just all come together and have a discussion, I feel like we can all get on the same page about a lot of things, actually all things. Anyway, let's move on to porn, because I just spent a long time talking about fetishes. So this one is interesting, yeah, because I'm really into porn, and okay, let me rephrase that. I'm into watching people having sex. I think it's impossible for me to watch people do it without being aroused. It's like if I'm saying to myself, like, I'm not gonna get aroused by this, and then I look at it, I have no control. It's like my vagina starts to vibrate and I'm like, no, I don't want to be aroused. And it's like, oh well, my vagina's vibrating. Therefore, it seems like I don't have an option. Like when I see people doing sexual things, I naturally become aroused. So it's funny that I didn't know. So I had to research this because I didn't know if it was true or not, where I think it's called consummate a marriage. So you had to like actually have sex in front of people, and I didn't know if this was true, if it was just in the movies where you have to have sex in front of people to make the marriage legal. Of it, you know, some people be like, you just wanted any excuse to like watch people have sex, and so you made it a part of the law that people had to watch. Like, what? Can you imagine that? Being forced to have sex in front of people. So I had to Google it to see if it was true, and I think in some traditions it was true, and in some traditions it wasn't true, where you had to have sex in front of people to make the marriage legal. So I don't know if that's where the idea of porn begun, because of these traditions where like you was allowed to watch people, and naturally when you watch people do that, you become aroused, so then it's something that you kind of get addicted to, you know, so you want it, you want more of it because you like it. And so I don't know if that was and then also like if you're like, I've never done this, but I can imagine this happened a lot, where like you sneak into somebody's like privacy and you watch them and they have no idea that you're watching them, and you're like a kid or something and you're just watching. Like maybe it came from these ideas of like being aroused by watching something that typically you're not supposed to watch, and it's a private thing, and it turns you on because you're watching it. I said, and maybe that's where porn came from. But the problem I have with porn is maybe the problem I have with this whole world, that it's just like really ugly and terrible and has loads of negativity to it, because I think that the porn industry right now, everything is fake. Like 9 out of 10 videos that I come across, that I just have to swipe them away because they're annoying and they're fake, and she's not feeling what she's feeling, he's not feeling what you want him to feel, and it's all fake for the camera and it's not real. And if you want to have a real experience of porn, it's better that you go to a sex club where people are actually going there to ejaculate, to have sexual pleasure. Therefore everything that you're watching is real, and for me it has to be real for me to be aroused, because if it's fake, then that would just be stupid. Like somebody's like, oh, I know you're watching me through my window, so I'm gonna pretend to like ejaculate my boyfriend. That's not gonna turn me on, because I know you're doing it on purpose and it's not real. But if you're like ejaculating your boyfriend and you don't know nobody's watching, that's gonna arouse me because it's real. And so then the porn industry has become very fake, and not only that, they now making so much porn towards these fetishes. Again, I won't call them fetishes because they're about sex. You want to like gag a woman, or you want her to spit all over your penis, or you want her to wee all over you. Like these extreme things are now all over porn. So then I can't skip through trying to find a video without coming across these really disgusting things that just actually kind of put me off. Like, oh, that's not even nice. Like bum sex in porn, I do not find that arousing whatsoever. Again, so this is just my preferences because I'm a bit romantic and stuff. These are my pleasures, and maybe we all have different pleasures and stuff. And for me, my go-to porn is somebody going down on somebody, a man going down on a woman, because a woman going down on a man, that doesn't turn me on whatsoever. I don't know why. A woman sucking does not arouse me, but a man. And so this is where my fetishes might come into porn, because like I prefer the naughty ones, you know, because if they're on the bed and he's going down on her, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I can do it with this one. But if he's like under the table and she's like pretending to do something and then he's like licking her and stuff like that, arouses me a bit more, because it's like a, you know, a bit more naughtier. And maybe watching porn is a little bit like a drug, right? Where you get excited to have it and then life becomes a bit easier with it. Because for me, when I've had a drink and I want to masturbate, I get excited at the thought that I'm gonna watch some porn and it's gonna like turn me on and I'm gonna like tickle. Whereas if I'm not watching porn, then it's like, am I tickling? Because I need some type of incentive or something. But if I had a man there, then 100% I don't need to watch porn. So maybe it's a tool to make things more exciting. So I think that there is a space for porn to be an exciting, available thing, like watching movies and stuff. It's exciting, right? Oh, I'm gonna watch a movie, or oh, I'm gonna watch people have sex. Like, okay, it's nice, right? But there is the line that we've crossed where it's unhealthy and it's just a bit fake. Again, these discussions need to happen, because like, what is unhealthy? Why is it that I think it's unhealthy that you want spit all over your penis and it's all just like spit hanging, like, ugh, why? And maybe it's because, again, with this thing that I'm figuring out about myself, that my brain works a bit different, where like people like to hear people eat. For me, that's like the worst sound. When I'm on Instagram and then they start to eat what they've made, like I get infuriated by it and I quickly mute it, because I don't want to hear you crunching. Like, it infuriates me. So maybe it's because my brain is a bit different and maybe people don't get infuriated by that, but I think they do. Because like, for example, when like my son gulps like really hard on his drink and he's gulping, like I just say to him like, calm down when you're drinking that. I'm not at peace with that noise of like gulp gulp gulp. Like, please calm down. So basically, I want to talk to everybody in the world to find out why they like what they like, to have understanding, to make it all beautiful and innocent, to make it all acceptable. Like, I just want to have understanding. But I do wish that the porn industry just had like less of all of that stuff and more of the natural things. And I want to understand why I have that viewpoint. Like, why do I want it to be what I call normal, and why don't I like all the things that are abnormal to me? Why I don't know. Just because it looks unhealthy. It looks unhealthy to have like this spit going down and then you swallow your own spit. And again, does it come from the world where you're being treated a bit like this, a bit like that, or you're treating somebody like that and now you need the opposite to happen? So is it this exploration because the world is so then you need to explore in all these ways, and it helps you with your brain to feel like you're in control somehow, to feel like you can create your own universe, because you're supposed to be able to, and you're not allowed to in this world because these head people are in charge. So then are you like then creating your own godly universe, so then you can at least have some type of freedom somewhere, and then it comes out in the bedroom? Like, I don't know, something is happening here, but all I know is that when I watch these things, it makes me extremely uncomfortable. If you're trying to put two penises in one hole, that makes me feel uncomfortable. It makes me feel like you're abusing the situation, because the hole is supposed to be... Because let's be real, right? When you give birth, that's not a pleasurable experience. And if women have done that, then I would love to hear from you. And was it a spiritual experience? I don't know. But for me, I tried to make it spiritual. It didn't happen. I suffered. It hurts. Opening up that wide, it hurts. Even now, after I've given birth, and that first stroke into my vagina when I'm having sex hurts still. Even if I'm wet, when you first put it up, it hurts. And does it arouse a man to hurt a woman? What? We don't have enough of these conversations, so I'm sitting here blindly trying to like figure it out. And because I've got 3 subjects, I'm not really given too much time to actually sit here and try and figure it out. Like, what is it that you like about that first stroke, and then it hurts her, and does it turn you on a little bit, and why does it turn you on, and does it turn me on that it turns you on? Like, a little bit, yeah. Why? And I want to have these conversations, because I do kind of like somebody to hold my neck a little bit. I don't want you to strangle me though, but I wouldn't mind that you just holding my neck a little bit, because that will make me feel things. So to end the porn thing, I think if we go to sex clubs rather than watch porn, that would be more greater. So I feel like we should just legalize sex clubs. Is sex clubs legal in the UK? I have a feeling that it's not legal. I feel like it's illegal, and it shouldn't be illegal. Like, we should just have sex clubs everywhere. So instead of you going to watch porn, you should go to a sex club. Can you imagine how many like weirdos? I don't want to say weirdos. I don't want to say these things, because I just want to heal them. If you're a weirdo, I want to heal you, or I want to understand you and put you in the right environment, so then you're not a weirdo. Like, I'm just saying that I wouldn't want anybody and everybody to like be in the space with me. And again, isn't that like bad? Because everybody's one, so why can't they? And I think it's just about the energy. I don't like the energy that you're looking at me with or something. Anyways, long conversation. Let's move on to squirting, because I'm excited about this one. Okay. It's so funny, because I got convinced for a second that squirting was part of sexual practice, and my friend said it to me. She's like, no, Nayna, squirting is like women ejaculation, and when you learn to do it, like, trust me, it's like, you know, women ejaculation. And then my friend Nas, he was like, yeah, I make girls squirt all the time. And I had this thing in the back of my head that I was like, it just seems a little bit, again, unhealthy, right? Because like, it just feels like, because I would listen to these people and I would like proper like step by step listen to them, and I kept concluding that like you're over stimulating something, like you're stressing it out, and the reason why you're it squirts is because it's stressed out and it goes psh, and you're stressing it out. And me, I don't like stress like whatsoever. If you need to stress something to get a result for me, like, no thank you. Unless it's something to do with the computer, then I don't mind the stress. But sexually, I don't like it. Because I had a guy once that like was like banging me, and I was trying to get past this discomfort, and I couldn't get past it. I was like, I don't like it. It's stressful. It's stressing my body. And squirting sounded like that. But then I was trying to like believe my friends and say, okay, maybe it's a part of sexuality. But then I did some research yesterday. Oh, it's so funny. First of all, doctors don't know the answer properly. They're not sure of it, but they have done experiments. So there was an experiment done in Japan, which I thought was quite hilarious, that you're gonna watch people like masturbate, are ya? You're gonna watch them, are ya? And then they go masturbate in a room. So basically they fill the bladder up with a blue liquid, and then they tell the people to ejaculate with the squirting, and then to see if what comes out is the blue liquid, right? Because prior to this, they had been, I think, testing the sample, and it was like, because my friend said to me, yeah, that this liquid is a sexual liquid, and it fills up in your bladder. It's a sexual liquid, and it's like a whitish sexual liquid. And I was always like, that just sounds like it's urine. And then she was like, oh, do you ever like go wee after you've had sex and like your wee is completely white because you finally released the ejaculation through the wee, and that's why it's white, because shouldn't wee be yellow or whatever the color is, right? And actually now I've just had a thought that, yeah, because there's this like other chemical that gets released through sexuality in the ejaculation of a woman, or when she gets wet, and that, I forgot what it's called, like ACP or A something, and maybe that chemical makes the wee turn white or turn see-through. So maybe it's a chemical reaction as to why that liquid becomes see-through. So they'll do a test on this before the blue thing. They do a test on the squirting, and it had traces of urine, and it had traces of the sexual ejaculation chemical, whatever it's called. So they were just a bit confused. Like, is it because there was like residue of urine inside of the bladder, and then the liquid filled the bladder, and then it mixed with the urine, which then means that if you like to have squirting in your mouth, you're kind of like having wee in your mouth. They was unsure about what squirting was, so then they did this blue thing, and then when the woman squirt, all of them squirted the blue liquid basically, right? So they concluded that the bladder is filled with urine, and then it gets mixed with the ejaculation serum, and then it squirts out because it's involuntary release of the urine because it's overstimulated. So I wouldn't have believed all of this. Actually, I don't know. It's just research online that I did. I wouldn't have believed it though if it wasn't for this woman who is a squirter, and she said in her interview, oh, I broke up with a guy because he kept, no, I don't know what she says something, but she said that she was annoyed that he kept making her squirt, but he wasn't making her orgasm. Doesn't that even just tell you the answer right there? Because isn't squirting supposed to be the product of an orgasm? And if it's not, if you're just making women gush and there is no sexual pleasure to that, there's just like a release and there is no like, climax, then isn't that black and white that you're overstimulating the bladder, then the bladder gushes out involuntarily, and that's what's happening, rather than a sexual release of an orgasm? Because this woman who is a squirter, she said that the guy kept making her squirt, but he wasn't making her orgasm. And she was talking about people's talents or something. And I was like, huh? Now, I have been in situations where it feels like so intense, like the orgasm feels so intense that it feels like I just want to push something. And maybe this is a part of a woman's orgasm, that she either has to get her bladder involved in an extreme orgasm, or she has to control her bladder in an extreme orgasm or whatever. So now this has become a fetish for some people, because I was drinking loads of alcohol and there was a big queue for the toilet, so I went outside to go wee, because I cannot, for me the biggest torture is having to hold wee in. I'd rather just like wee myself, even though I've never done that. So I went outside and my friend was with me, and he turned around so I could go wee, and then he said that when he heard me wee, it was really arousing to him, and I was like, because he's so into the squirting thing that it reminded him of the squirting thing. I was like, So maybe everything can become an obsession if you do it and you like it and you keep doing it and you keep liking it, then it becomes an obsession and it becomes an addiction. Doesn't really necessarily mean that it is what you think it is, it's just the way it's turned out to be. So, squirting is either this fairy tale that people have made up where this liquid comes out of nowhere, it's a sexual liquid, it fills into your bladder, then it releases in an orgasm, but then the woman proved that you can release it without orgasming, so then that's a contradiction. Or it's just urine and it turns white for some reason when you're being sexual, and then it's an overstimulation, involuntary release, and then when you release it, because people also say that when you squirt it feels really like and to be honest, when you wee, it also feels like, so maybe it is the release of the bladder that makes you feel relaxed. I don't really want to conclude this because I've never done it. And I feel like if I did do it, it would be really stressful for me, because I do think it is a little bit of the stress thing. Like you have to overstress something, and I'm not about that. So I don't think I'm ever going to try squirting. Oh, I don't know. I just wanted to talk about it today because maybe I have to experience it to really kind of go, right, what is that? And maybe it is just a part of a possible way for women to explode. But it was just confusing that you can explode without an orgasm, which then means that it's just a side function. It's not the main function. And for me, I'm interested in the main function of an orgasm. I want to orgasm. I don't care about squirting or not. I want to orgasm. And for me, I've been able to orgasm internally and externally. And the only thing that ever comes out of me is wetness. And it's a bit thick white wetness. Okay, it's a little bit see-through, but it's not so see-through, and it's a little bit whitey, and it smells of nothing, and that is the only thing I've ever released in the internal and external. So my closing conclusion, I can't talk properly these days, my closing conclusion to my conversation today, I think there's a difference between being excited towards sexual things and having a connection, a spiritual, I want to say spiritual connection, but let me make it more human, an emotional connection of care. And then there is the opposite of having excitement towards things and having no care. So it's like you're using this and you have no care for it, and you're like abusing it and using it. I want to say abuse, but let me not say abuse. Like you're just using it and you have no care for it, and you're like putting it up yourself and you're doing these things and you have no care for it, and then you put it back and you're like, oh yeah, that was fun. Instead, you're like, oh, I love you. Thank you so much for being here. Oh, let's have a connection. Let's build this thing together. So I feel like that there is a difference between having care for your experimentations and your sexual experimentation, and then not having care. And one of them, you pay attention to what you're doing, and the other one, you ignore it, and you are in some type of like faraway land, and you're ignoring the present state, and you're using the present state, but you're out somewhere in the clouds in your head. And then the other one is like you're you're here and you're present and you are connecting to what you're doing, present in your brain, right? So I just feel like to be present is more nicer, because I would not want a man to have sex with me and not even be with me while he's having sex with me, because he's like outside somewhere doing something in his head, pretending that I am a Barbie or I am a dog. I don't know, and he's not really having sex with Nayna. He's just using my body, and he's having sex somewhere else in his head. Like, that would be absolutely atrocious. Is that a word? I think that's the word, atrocious. I think that's a bad word, and I mean it badly. So no thank you. I don't want people to do that to me. So I do feel like we should aim to be connected and to have care for these experimentations that we're doing, rather than the opposite. So I have a new segment called Quote of the Week. Before I leave you with my final closing note here, the quote of the week is, I don't know the question, but sex is definitely the answer. I picked that up on the internet somewhere and I was like, oh, I like that. I don't know the question, but sex is definitely the answer. And I feel that's a little bit true. Like, when you have sex, it kind of like helps you. Like, if you're stuck with something and you have sex, it's like, oh, I think I'm ready to do it now. So I feel like sex is so helpful, and we just need to we need to fix the world, man. We need to fix the world. I'm not gonna start a rant today, but we need to fix the world. And sex is the answer. That's my quote of the week. Okay, so a nice closing note from me today. I think that sexual things and sexual feelings is like the peak of life. And if you pay attention to life, there's always a peak, and the peak is the best part, right? And I feel like sexual things is like life is peaking, and there's other peaks in life like excitement and laughter and stuff, but there's nothing like the sexual peak, because it comes with like a few different things. It comes with feeling, it comes with stimulation of the body. I think there's a few different things that happens in a sexual peak, and so then I do feel like the sexual peak is one of the strongest peaks in life, and I think that's what sexuality is. It's like life is peaking. You know the heartbeat when it goes doop. I feel like sexuality is the doop, peaking, and we just must enjoy the intensity of sexuality. Okay, I've said my piece today. Covered 3 different subjects in my new setup. I hope you've enjoyed it. I don't know how I'm gonna feel when I watch this back. But yes, until next time, I will be back. I need to buy a new one of these because she has gone flat. Actually, I'm gonna try and like blow into her somehow. All right, until next time, I'll see you again soon. Goodbye.